All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Defiance Daily Show. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. I feel like I'm yelling. These earphones are really good. February 9th, 2026, 12:17 p.m. Central Standard Time. Appreciate everybody joining us today. I hope everybody had a sane weekend, following your celebrations, watching the Super Bowl, doing American stuff, watching football, yelling at your neighbors about the Bad Bunny performance, and everything else meaningless to do with our entertainment culture and everything involved with our week. Uh, Here we go. I'm missing my sound check guy and my video guy, which is right here on my phone here. So I'm going to go ahead and test this out. That's the lovely thing about seeing these podcasts is you get to see in real time what it's like to try to get these things going. Very, very fun stuff. Podcast is you can sounds like the audio's coming in through pretty nice, folks. Please don't be shy in the comment section if you think we suck and let us know. Mark may be jumping on remotely. Our guest host, Mark Pruitt, here. I'm your host, Travis Roberts, today. He'll be joining us remotely. He's been running all over Texas and popping in with some comments and commentary. I do believe he might be having some technical issues, but fear not. We will plow ahead and keep the show going here. Folks, before we get started, I do want to encourage everybody to please visit and share our sponsors here. That is Defiance Press Publishing. This show is brought to you by Defiance Press and Publishing. If you are in the market for a publisher, hit that Get Published link at defiancepress.com. Follow the prompts, follow the protocols, watch the video, get familiar with some of the details there before you submit all your information. And I just want to re-emphasize once again, we are not a third world Somali-run organization. When you submit your manuscripts to Defiance Press Publishing, they do not keep your manuscript unless they go to contract to sign you on as an author. So if your manuscript is not utilized, fear not. Again, we're not a third world organization that's going to repurpose your manuscript and try to sell it and make a couple bucks. We do everything legit. So again, that's defiancepress.com. Hit that Get Published link. And also, please be sure to check out our latest releases, our books, our authors, and support these titles. Supporting the authors in turn supports the team here at Defiance Press, and of course, indirectly supports the show as well. That's defiancepress.com. Please, once again, that's defiancepress.com. Also, check out RFT Media, your one-stop shop for IT solutions and web services. That's rftmedia.com. We use them here from everything from domain protection and hosting, web design. We do a lot of security solutions through them. And we actually use them for a multitude of organizations, especially for me as an independent business owner. I have to rely on experts out in the technical realm to really make sure we don't fall victim to any type of scams or anything online related like that. So that's rftmedia.com. Again, that's rftmedia.com. Hit that contact link and fill out your details and information. They will get back to you. Please let them know that Defiance Daily sent you. If you do decide to entertain with them, and you see there AI automation, web development, web design, digital marketing, graphic design, mobile app development, really, really cool stuff. I'm actually privileged to kind of some of the behind the scenes information there. Some of the projects these guys are working on are just absolutely incredible. So whether you're running a business, whether you're looking to start up a website, or maybe you have a political campaign, RFT Media is your source to do all that. That's rftmedia.com. Hit that Get Contact link, and they will be back to you as soon as possible. If you do want to reach out, you can reach out at help@rftmedia.com. That's help@rftmedia.com. And then, of course, as we're all experiencing here, if you live in the greater Houston, Conroe area, we had a freeze last week, some dropping temperatures, and then it hit about 80 degrees yesterday. It was kind of nice yesterday. It was actually pretty nice yesterday. A little cloudy in the morning, but That's the thing about living down here in Texas around these parts. You get all seasons in a week, and there's never a bad time here in Texas to buy a pool. Visit jbradleypools.com, jbradleypools.com. If you're in the Dallas, Austin, Houston, trifecta area, give them a call at 832-813-5340. That's 832-813-5340 to get a free estimate, a free quote. Yeah, and again, check out the website here. These guys do phenomenal work here. I always say the same thing. Chemtrails are free with your pool installation. So they don't offer that for you. That just comes with the territory, fortunately. So you can breathe in your daily dose of barium, aluminum, sulfides, and you could go from there. Also, check out our other sponsor at procurelogics.com. Again, that's procurelogics.com. Visit the services and technology there. So if you are in a IT networking department and you are being inundated with large budget type projects and you just don't have the team, the staff, the time to labor through everything in there, and you need a tool in your workshop to help you with it, you can visit procurelogics.com, hit the technology solutions there, everything from RFP services to contract management, contract lifecycle management, and everything in between. That's procurelogics.com. If you have any questions, you can reach out at 512-640-1532. Again, that's 512-640-1532. Um, so I appreciate that. Who is going on here? Okay. Okay. So somebody, I guess, is having fun at the expense of our show for some reason, but glad you're paying to us. Pay attention to us, buddy. But yeah, that's procurelogics.com. Again, you can reach out at 512-640-1532, 512-640-1532. And all of this makes the show possible. Really, really appreciate the time. And of course, for everybody tuning in, especially the haters, that's always the funnest part of doing this broadcast here. Uh, yeah, as we go through, and of course, we see all the news stories coming out for the Super Bowl, which is, look, I know everybody wants to talk about the Super Bowl and everything in between there, which, okay, we'll do it. Of course, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. But to me, it's just another distraction and everything that's fake and gay with our country. Gay spelled Ghey for those that are familiar. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Get your reactions to this Bad Bunny concert, and of course, the counter halftime show over at TPUSA was also hosted, which was interesting to say the least. So we'll get into that a little bit. Again, interesting stuff. Yes, cultural importance, things like the Super Bowl. For me personally, I'm not really into pro NFL sports. I'm more the collegiate kind of guy. I kind of like the college sports seem a little bit more entertaining to me. So I didn't even know who was in the Super Bowl until I turned it on there. But of course, everybody wanted to know what we were getting from the second or the halftime performance. And of course, we got some clips and we'll cover that today. Also, we'll go into some of the latest revelations on this Epstein scandal as far as some of the files that are being out. And obviously, we're all seeing the news reports and some of the details, not really from the mainstream media, but from online presence, which is there's still a lot more documents that they're sitting on over there at the DOJ. So Pam Bondi doing Pam Bondi things, and we're still trying to figure out. We're seeing resignations in the European Union from a lot of these figures, but nothing really seems to be happening here in the United States. So I did see the Clintons are going to be answering to Congress, and there's a battle whether that's going to be open door. There's a battle whether that's going to be closed door. So very, yeah, very interesting to say the least. What's going on there? But again, we're not really seeing any traction as far as resignations or anything along those lines, at least that I've seen as of this morning. So we're still the same kind of slop going on with this. The other part is I do want to live dive. I'll call it a live dive into some of the new revelations from these Epstein files, including some of the more outlandish ones. Apparently, there's some coded emails talking about beef jerky and jerky, which look a little suspicious. We're going to see if those are real. We're going to go into that real time. And also some other details about apparently an ex girlfriend of Epstein talking about him trying to buy her child. I don't know what that's all about, but we're going to dive into that a little bit. And again, I think we're kind of seeing kind of the edges of whatever this operation was, and I know there's a lot of back and forth about was it strictly blackmail, was it strictly money laundering, what exactly was going on. And I think we got a little pieces to everything there as far as some of this network's concerned. Also, some weird revelations about Epstein himself submitting a FOIA request, to my understanding, that may not be the correct terminology, but to the CIA to see if he was an unwitting asset, which is an interesting angle on this. So I want to see if we can get into that as well. Also, the Atlantic has a Epstein problem. So they're putting out some of these articles saying there's really nothing to see here. We've seen them do this in the past. So let's dive into what exactly is the connection with the Atlantic, its journos, and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course, we'll also go around the multicultural globe and check in on France. It appears multiculturalism is doing fantastic work as usual. I think there was a frag grenade that was a bombing a beauty salon or something in France. So we'll check in on that lovely take there. And then of course, I did want to get into some of these operations the FBI has announced in cracking down on pedophile sex crime networks. And we're going to go into the details there because it's a little interesting to see what is actually narrative building and what is actually convicting some of these large scale networks that the FBI supposedly uncovered. So we'll see how that goes as far as that's concerned. And if you're tuning in here, please don't forget, folks, we are on X, we're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, Instagram. We had a little issue with there. We'll get back to you on this one as well. We're also on Facebook, so feel free to join us, hit like or subscribe. I would venture to say YouTube and Rumble would probably be the best bet on this. Also on X, can't forget to plug X there. X is probably our most utilized platform there, so you can visit us on X. That's the Defiance Daily Show. Again, you can visit us at the Defiance Daily Show. Just type it into your search bar on any one of your social media platforms and give us a follow, and we'll go in from there. I gotta say, it's not as fun doing this without Mark here by my side. I miss you, Mark. So we'll see if he's able to tune in later, and we'll get started here. So I guess the big one, the biggest story, right? The most talked about and important story is, of course, the Super Bowl halftime show. Uh let's just get an idea what we're in for today. Let's see, where do I even start with this stuff? I guess I could read uh, some of the uh, some of the lyrics to this stuff. For those that missed it, I'm not going to play the performance here on the show. I think we've got enough of that. Politics aside from this, this was, I don't know that I would consider a really good musical performance just from a standpoint of the music. There was a lot of mumbling, bumbling going on, and of course, it was. I guess he was speaking in Puerto Rican. Folks. I don't know who. I don't know who Bad Bunny is. Okay, I'll be honest with you now. I usually go to my wife for these things. She couldn't tell me who he was either, but some of the some parts of the music were familiar, but I mean, she couldn't really pinpoint a song. And I just, guys, I don't know who Bad. So there were some really funny clips going around on kind of highlighting the talent of this vocal performance here. Let me see if I can find this here because it's oh man, it's pretty damn good. Um, Here, let me see if I could just play audio from the Super Bowl performance, and y'all can get a glimpse, and y'all can be the judge. If you're, I feel like if you're somebody that's rabidly bought into the narrative of everybody I don't like is a Nazi and ICE is the Gestapo, yeah, you're gonna celebrate this like it's the most amazing thing ever seen, except for the fact that again, you probably didn't even understand what he was saying up there. But of course, predictably, and even on my social media feed, you can see people gushing about just the unifying nature of speaking a different language on there. People just cheering it on. I just, man, it just everything just seems so stupid when it comes to the outrage and my team, your team, left versus right, all this other kind of stuff. And let me see if I could get a little taste of this. And again, I'm sorry, folks, but you're gonna hear it here, whether you like it or not. So let me see what you guys think about this performance. Let me see if I could share the audio here. Man, for those of you racist bigots that missed it, you're going to have to deal with it now.
Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Perú, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá, a my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico. Seguimos aquí.
And I think from my understanding, let me see if I can find the actual what did that football say on it? I think we got an idea what that said. Yeah, it says together we are America. So I don't know. The interesting point for me is kind of seeing them walk up on here with all these flags. And if you're not getting the message yet, welcome to your third world status. Basically, to me, is kind of what this conveys, which is basically, welcome to the international new world order. In order to have any semblance of culture or identity as a country, it's now latent with basically every other country on the planet except your own. So the whole multicultural agenda is rife here. There was rumors that he was going to come out in a dress and all that stuff. Obviously, that's not what was seen. Some of the antics with it were pretty. I don't know. It's very mainstream, predictable what these messages are meant to entail. The nation built on immigrants. You can't steal on stolen land or something along those lines. But I don't. To me, when I saw this yesterday, it's more the messages. You're a third world country now, and the only thing that makes up your identity now is your migration status. How many you're taking in legally or illegally, and if you don't believe that, just look at what's going on in the European countries in the European Union. This is a global agenda. This is not just slated for America, although America is obviously one of the big ones in the crosshairs for this agenda. And it's mass migration, third world status, even playing field, because we're all going to be equal. We're all going to be poor. We're all going to have no sovereignty and eventually be under one single currency digitally. And for all of you that fell for Bitcoin and every type of freedom that you thought that would entail, it's now turning out, well, they might have given it to us in the first place, which would go in line with the single digital currency for the world. And we're just marching right along. To me, the other aspect of this is what audience is this trying to reach? Because people that consume bad Bunny, the demographically, at least from what I looked at this morning, it's mostly women. So I guess are we appealing our Super Bowl halftime shows to women? So you get more of a broader audience tuning into a boring Super Bowl football game, and then getting everybody to flock to these halftime shows, because I don't know that it's geared towards the main audience that consumes the football games, is what I'm saying. So, again, more feminine approach to things in manly domains such as football, and there's your result right there. I don't know what else needs to be said about that. So again, pretty, yeah, and of course there's yeah, all kinds of uh all kinds of feedback to this as well, which, that's mainstream culture for you. That's where we're at with regard to this. So, good luck with that. Let's see here. Uh, and of course, let's see what some of the crowd thought of that. I thought this was a pretty good video, showing the crowd reaction to this performance. And, when I ask who exactly are the halftime shows aimed at, this is what I mean. This is what makes you wonder right here. Uh yeah, I mean, are you feeling it? I think like most folks, just normal, regular folks that, a lot of people watching the Super Bowl don't really maybe to care about the politics of it all. They probably didn't. But did that crowd look like this was something that was interesting to them? Of course, you see the few females that know who Bad Bunny is dancing. And of course, this was Seattle and New England. So, you could probably guess up the makeup of the crowd who was cheering for Seattle and probably New England at the same time. But I don't know, just not really potent stuff if you ask me. And again, who is that meant to appeal to? But credit to the PR marketers and the campaign managers for this kind of stuff, because when they announced Bound Bad Bunny was going to go on there, you had all this, and it was just misinformation about what was coming down. Created all this controversy around it, and then of course now all these people are going to tune in, or they're going to tune into the TPUSA counter show, and that's kind of how it went down. Now I do have a video from, or this is coverage of the counter show at TPUSA. Let's take a look and see what they were talking about there.
Halftime performance. The show drawing in more than 10 million live viewers and more than 25 million views on social media platforms. The Turning Point team also dedicated those performances to the life of Charlie Kirk.
Okay, and you're seeing there 10 million live viewers, 25 plus views on social media platforms. So pretty good showing. We did watch a little bit of it last night. And again, I know who Kid Rock is, but the other folks in there, I'm not personally familiar with, but I don't know. It was pretty well produced. I will say that. And apparently they only put this together in 2 months' time. So credit to TPUSA on that one. Yeah, 10 million plus live viewers. That's pretty cool. And I'm sure you all saw it on social media, in the political dialectic in the country. My team watched Bad Bunny, and then your team watched the TPUSA halftime show. And to me, this is all just stupid. But I do get the cultural significance to that. But just for me personally, not none of it's really entertaining to me, and I'll stick to my collegiate sports. There was some other controversy around it, of course, but this has been going on for years. These halftime shows being sexual in nature. You had Janet Jackson at one point pop a titty out accidentally, with who was that on there? Oh god. I should have my wife on standby for some of the Timberlake, Justin Timberlake. I almost said Bieber. I would have got that wrong. I think it was Timberlake, that performance with the pop titty out. It's talked about for years, talked about to this day. But yeah, some of this stuff, the sexual nature of some of this, I mean, this is obvious. They kind of just gear this out to the face, to our faces, and not really kid friendly material. Here's one segment of the Bad Bunny performance that's making its rounds.
Los caseríos. Ella viene por ahí.
Yeah, for those that are listening on audio, yeah, that was two men grinding on there. And I did want to, and again, the whole performance was in Puerto Rican. So, yeah, nobody understood a word. Well, not nobody, but most of the people consuming this. So, which is why I think it was so funny, the whole gushing over the uh the performance and the standing together and all this kind of stuff, and it's just also ridiculous. Here's the translated. Okay, folks, viewer discretion advised on this one. But here's some of the lyrics that were being relayed once they're translated, and this was one of the songs that was in here. My dick is being chased, and I want you to hide it. Grab it like a bonga. She took a pill that made her horny. She fucks in the Audi, not in the Honda. If I give it to you, don't call me. Because this is not to make you love me. If your boyfriend doesn't eat your, oh, I can't read this on air right now. If your boyfriend doesn't eat your ass, he better fuck off. Come down to my house. I'll lick it all up. Miami, I'll lick it all up. Come down to my house. I'll wear you out. I'll wear you out. Come down to my house. I'll lick it up. Poppy, keep going. Mommy, I'll lick it all up. Poppy, keep going. Tell me, servant. Poppy, keep going. If you smoke weed, Poppy. Yeah, just it's family friendly entertainment. Just absolutely awesome. And then, of course, everybody's, I'm sure, familiar with Trump's response to this. Let me see if I can pull this up from Truth Social. Oh, that's an image there. Okay, bear with me, folks. I think I screenshotted that versus doing that. Let me see if I can just, here, I'll see if I can just share my screen over here and you guys can see it yourself. I wonder if I could do a Trump voice for this. The Supertime halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching throughout the USA and all over the world. This show is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401ks in history. There is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show, and watch, it will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't gotten a clue what is going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace this ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Yeah. So, and of course, I've been seeing on my social media feed, and mostly, yeah, I'm not trying to be the He-Man woman hater, but it's mostly females that are going back and forth on this garbage, saying, delete me if you didn't like the Bad Bunny show. Again, everything's performative, everything's stupid. Yeah, this is another example, one of those. There was also Piers Morgan who was gushing about this apparently. And let me see if I can add this to stage here. So couldn't disagree more, Mr. President. I absolutely love Bad Bunny's halftime show. Amazing, best in Super Bowl history, theater, choreography, great energy. Oh, and Spanish is first language for 50 plus million Americans. I'll probably add that about 30 of those are illegal. So, which is pretty interesting because I know Piers Morgan in the past, for those that know and followed him, he was saying, how America is an English speaking country, bar none, and took some so again, like I said, the performative kind of moral posturing on this, or both sides, is a little bit irritating me. But can't say it's not entertaining a little bit there, but definitely interesting to say the least. So, yeah, what are y'all thoughts? Did y'all enjoy Bad Bunny's performance? Did it speak as a musical? Did you get the chills watching it, thinking, "Man, this is the coolest entertainment halftime show I've ever seen in my life"? Or are you like most normal people that, well, I didn't know what he was saying, and it also sounded kind of bad. I didn't know that if he was a singer, if he was a rapper. That's where I got confused. And along with my wife, is he a singer? Is he a rapper? I don't know. We don't know. But again, more stupidity in our culture as we go through the political nature of everything now. Can't even have a Super Bowl game without just some entertaining performances going on that we could talk about. But here we are. Oh, and of course, there was some famous stars that were on stage to this: Cardi B, Pedro Pascal, and is that Alba? Jessica Alba. Okay. Again, oh, Ricky Martin. I guess I had no idea that was Ricky Martin. I didn't even know the guy was still around performing. But again, to me, the whole multicultural, international, interdependent agenda. Nobody's a sovereign country anymore. Everybody just welcomes everybody, except when you go to those countries where we're importing them from, and just kind of this slop obsession with third world countries. And it's supposed to be this great thing for America. I'm just not buying it, and I don't think you should either. So, anyway, moving on, going over to the next piece here, which is what is the latest revelations here on the Epstein files that really caught some wind this weekend? So let me see if I can do this justice. And let me see here. Yeah, because it does appear we've got some ongoing cover ups still happening under this DOJ and this administration. So we'll just have to let's see here. Mm-mm-mm. Bear with me, folks. Trying to get this on here to really, really kind of hone in on this latest revelation. Of course, can't find the article now. Pretty interesting. Okay, here we go. This was an odd piece of information that hit. This was from the Daily Mail yesterday. A federal statement announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death has surfaced in newly released Department of Justice files, but it carries a date that appears to precede the moment he was officially found dead inside his New York prison cell. The document, issued by United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York and dated Friday, August 9, 2019, states Epstein had already been found unresponsive and pronounced dead. But prison records and official accounts show Epstein was not discovered unresponsive until the morning of August 10th, 2019, when a corrections officer delivering breakfast found him in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. So let me just get to the crux of this. And again, folks, you can visit go to Daily Mail, and that what is the headline there? Statement announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death emerges from files, but it's dated a day before he killed himself. That's from the Daily Mail. So let's go through kind of the nitty gritty on this. Federal records now show that a Department of Justice statement announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death is dated August 9th, a day before officials say his body was found in Manhattan jail cell on the morning of August 10th. The timing error lands on top of already documented failures, contradictions, and oddities in the official account, and materially undermines confidence in the government's narrative of what happened in the hours before Epstein dies, to say the least. Now, I did get wind. Apparently, there's a photo circulating on social media of a drone that appears to have captured Epstein after it was announced he was dead on the island. We don't know for sure if Epstein or not. I pulled the image, so I'm gonna do some checking on that before I report it. But yeah, there's some people that are now speculating that, you know, did he really die? Um, and I'm not stating a position one way or another. I really don't know. Um, what we do know is that this narrative just continually falls apart. It feels like each year that we get more information on it. And here's just another one. Now, of course, it's yeah, I did see those reports as well. It could just be a clerical error, you know. The clerical error, as far as being on suicide watch, and he's supposed to be monitored at all times, but then the cameras fell, and then there's an announcement about his death, but it was a day early, but it's probably just a clerical error. So obviously, the government has given us nothing to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to telling the truth. The government is nothing but a self preserving agency across the board. Every single agency, every single branch, and all the bureaucratic mess that's been built around it for over the centuries now. Um, yeah, its only job is to preserve itself. So, I'm not really surprised by any of this. But yeah, self preservation is the only role of government, it seems now, no matter who's in office. So we get our team in there, the other side gets their team in there, and these same agendas continue on. And of course, the same tired argument of, Democrats had the presidency. They had all the time and the resources in the world to go after this stuff, but of course they didn't. And to be honest, nobody did. Nobody did before anybody who knew who Epstein was, unless you were listening to Alex Jones in the mid 2000s, or reading Roger Stone's book, or listening to people like Mike Cernovich. You had no idea who Epstein was. So it's really interesting for me to just see all the outrage around people on my social media that never talked about this stuff before, but since they think it can stain Trump, now they're obsessed with it. And I don't think any of these people really care about any of the victims or what's actually being done here. And of course, for the people that voted Donald Trump in, people like myself, we wanted to see answers to all of this. We wanted to see arrest. We wanted to see these networks topple over. We wanted to identify a lot of what's involved. And as the days go by, it just looks like we're still going to be holding the bag with a lot of stuff. And all right, back to this article here. Newly released files from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York include a draft statement reporting that Epstein had been found unresponsive in his cell and declared dead, but the document is dated August 9th, 2019. Official timelines, inmate logs, and prior DOJ and Inspector General reports all say Epstein was discovered in his cell and pronounced dead on the morning of August 10th. At least one of the drafts carries the August 9 date while describing the death in the past tense, as if the discovery and pronouncement had already occurred. Reporters who reviewed the batch described multiple versions of similar statements, with inconsistent redactions and formatting suggesting that SDNY was iterating on language in real time. So one of these versions apparently explicitly dated August 9th, even though the discovery came later. It's now the focal point of renewed scrutiny. So as more information comes out, and again, the administration, Trump himself, we need to move on from this stuff. And obviously, this isn't going to go away anytime soon. And it shouldn't. Okay, so in an ordinary case, a misdated draft could be written off as clerical sloppiness, but Epstein's death was already marred by irregularities, which we all know. Guards failed to perform required checks, cameras outside his cell malfunctioned, staff falsified logs to make it appear rounds had been done. The DOJ's own inspector general concluded Epstein died by suicide, but simultaneously documented that special housing unit staff conducted no 30-minute rounds after about 10:40 p.m. on August 9th, and that required counts after 4 p.m. that day were not done and later falsified. So prison cameras in the area also failed that night, adding another gap in the evidentiary record. Against that backdrop, a predated statement looks less like a harmless typo and more like another data point suggesting an institution that either cannot keep coherent records in a high profile case or was working from a pre written script about Epstein's fate. So, fair to say, it's fair to speculate it's the latter. Okay. Uh, definitely fair to speculate it's the latter. For victims and the public, it reinforces the perception that key moments in the timeline were handled backwards. Instead of facts driving the statement, it appears the statement may have been prepared in advance of the officially acknowledged events. So, here's some other emerging oddities again. And folks, for those of you that listen to the show, you know we've done whole shows just dedicated to the consistencies in the narrative around him killing himself, and a lot of it's ridiculous. But again, recapping it here for some of the new ones that joined us. Appreciate you guys. Recent releases under the Epstein Files Transparency Act and related court order disclosures have surfaced additional details that clash with the clean, fully documented suicide narrative. Cache of DOJ and FBI material shows internal emails noting that Epstein's final written communication in his cell doesn't look like a suicide note, even though investigators still close the case as a suicide. DOJ Inspector General records also show that MCC staff used boxes and sheets to create a decoy body in a white van to distract the media outside, while Epstein's actual body was placed in a different vehicle that departed largely unnoticed. This is a new revelation for me, folks. So if you're hearing this for the first time, welcome to the show. Let me repeat that again. MCC staff used boxes and sheets to create a decoy body in a white van to distract the media outside, while Epstein's actual body was placed in a different vehicle that departed largely unnoticed. So, where did the picture of Epstein on the gurney come from? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Let me see if I can pull up that picture of Epstein on gurney. Let's see. Let's see. We got the decoys, all that stuff. Mm, 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 mm. I'm just trying to find. Okay, so this one here. This is what I vaguely remember. So I'm doing a little bit of this off memory. I'll see if I can pull it up for the class so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Bear with me. Let's remove this down. Doing this live here. Now this one looks like, so this one appeared in, I think this was the Daily Mail. Okay. And okay, took long enough. And again, yeah, there's the photo of him on the gurney there. They got him. And again, is that him being delivered to the hospital, or is that him coming out of the prison? FDNY paramedic. I'm probably doing a bad job of covering this here, but regardless, to say, pretty interesting note there. Yeah, and I'm trying to. Now, a lot of people did. I remember that circulating on the web, which is, if you zoom in on kind of his facial features here and the little glimpses we got, the earlobes don't match up and all this other kind of stuff. Again, I'm not on here to tell you or try to convince you one way or another. That's just for your own speculation. The fact is we don't know. Yeah, these pictures are out here. Yeah, there's some inconsistencies. You could speculate all you want, but it just remains to be seen. But either way, very, very odd. Is that normal behavior? Is that typical? Using decoys to, circumvent the media or anything like that. But again, people are going to question this because how can we trust the government at all, given they can't get any part of this story straight about his death themselves? And then, of course, you got Dan Bongino and Kash Patel that just did political suicide and saying they reviewed the whole file and he killed himself and that's that. And you're a doomer if you say otherwise, apparently. Okay, on the surveillance front, DOJ and FBI released what they described as full raw video from outside Epstein's cell. Yeah, who remembers this? recorded the night before his death, but metadata analysis revealed the footage had been processed and there was roughly 1 minute gap in the recording just before midnight. And of course, y'all remember Pan Bondi coming out there and saying that was normal when they switch out the VHS tapes. Or I guess all this new technology we have, we still have correctional facilities using VHS tapes. Not really too far-fetched given how inadequate our federal government is across the board. Officials insist there is no evidence of deceptive editing and maintain that the video supports their assertion that no one entered Epstein's housing area between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., yet the missing segment and post-processing undercut the goal of providing unimpeachable evidence. The new document tranche also includes references to a orange-clad figure ascending a stairway toward the locked area near Epstein's cell around 10:39 p.m. on August 9th. An observation log initially marked this as an inmate, while the Justice Department's Inspector General later described it as a corrections officer carrying orange linen or bedding, illustrating how basic facts in the timeline have shifted even with official records. So when layered with the misdated SDNY statement, these inconsistencies make it harder to treat the record as settled. What do y'all think? Does this make the record settled for you? It was just a clerical error, announcing his death the day before, and all this. Does that work for you? Are you okay to move on now? Are you ready to stop talking about this stuff? Yeah, let me know in the comments. Of course, the government's core position is Epstein was found in his cell on August 10th, died by suicide, and while there were serious administrative failures, there was no foul play. So that's the official response. Yet the pattern now looks like this. Okay, folks? Broken cameras, falsified rounds, a raw video with unexplained gaps, internal emails expressing doubt about the suicide note, and a prosecutor's death statement dated before the documented discovery of the body. Totally normal stuff. Quit paying attention to this. Let's move on and go win the midterms. And the economy's great. Everything's fine. And go over to Lindsey Graham's donation page. Just ship more money to him while he's palling around with Trump and just spits all over conservatives that voted him in. And then independents that really had no interest in this other than the rhetoric that was being told around this stuff, as well as immigration. And now everything's just taking a backward step. So not really a good sign for Republicans ahead of the midterms as this stuff just gets more ridiculous by the day. From a critical standpoint, each new discrepancy, of course, amplifies the central trust problem. The same institution asking the public to accept their findings have repeatedly mishandled or obscured key evidence. Even if one assumes every anomaly has an innocent explanation, such as clerical error or common bureaucratic sloppiness, the concentration of errors in one of the most sensitive cases strains credibility. That's to say the least here. It's a good article. It also gives defense attorneys, foreign officials, and Epstein's victims legitimate grounds to question whether the full story has been disclosed and whether the investigations were bounded to stay within a no foul play conclusion. Just a reminder here, folks, Thomas Massey's being primaried. And yes, the political nature of all these people involved, there's always some self-serving goal to some part of this here, but yeah, you're primarying the guy that basically made this happen after we got the stupid binder release, that charade, and then the backtracking on, well, there's files, they're sitting on my desk to there's not, and now here we are. Now, this predated statement is particularly damaging because it invites a provocative but straightforward question. How could officials write about Epstein's death in the past tense with a date of August 9th if the discovery did not occur until August 10th? Basic stuff here. So even though the SDNY characterized this as an internal draft that was mislabeled, yeah, now the burden's back on the government to show the version's histories, the email chains, and other documentary proof that this was clerical and not foreknowledge. I wouldn't hold your breath if I was you folks. Again, this just gets more insane by the day as we learn more and more about these emails and what else was going on. Yeah, and of course, the latest release, it does more than reopen the question about the death. It also illuminates the scale tied to all these powerful political, business, and scientific figures, and basically the uneven approach to the transparency from the DOJ on here. Yeah, we've said it on the show before, but we actually said it within the first month of his term. Pam Bondi was going to be a problem, folks, and here we are. Here we are. I think Mark first. The co-host here, Mark Pruitt, yeah, I think it was when Pam Bondi was going on Fox News talking about how they're focusing in on anti-Semitic coffee shops in California. He thought I was joking before we went on the broadcast, and then I showed him the clip live on air, and you could just see the blood leaving his face as he realized we've got a Barbie in the DOJ, and we're just is she in on it? Is she not? Is she just a willing puppet head that's put on there? I think that's fair to say. It's all fair play. Let's see here. Yeah, and this is also it's also not helping. We know and apparently there's about 3.5 million more pages of this Epstein related stuff. And of course, the way DOJ is rolling this out, you can't it's a little hard to mass download these files. So I know there's some organizations and news sites that are really they're trying to download everything. And what's happening is we're actually seeing updates in the site in real time as they're going. So some information's disappearing, some of it that was there before that's gone now. So there's games that are being played still, folks. The cover up is still ongoing. You wonder what they're taking down. So I do recommend everybody go to. Let me see here again, and I always emphasize this on the show. Um, Here I'm going to put this in the banner for those of us that are curious and you don't want to just keep reading scrolls um, about this and you want to actually dig into the feed, that's the link for the Epstein files. So that's the link right there, folks. If you're seeing some wild stuff and you just want to go look it up for yourself, they do have a search bar in there so you can type it. And again, the way everything's logged in, some folks think that these equal signs in these large spaces are part of just making it impossible to it. But when you're doing a raw data dump of email files, depending on the software you use, that's actually fairly normal. So yeah, there's weird conspiracy stuff we can go down, but you don't have to make stuff up or make mountains out of molehills. Some of this stuff is just part of the export process. But that's it. Justice.gov//Epstein. I have it scrolling there on the bottom for those that are actually interested in seeing what they can uncover there and what you can find. There's the link right there, and I'll keep it scrolling for a little bit longer. Let's see here. Yeah. So on top of that, there was some interesting revelations that I was hearing from the Blaze Media, Glenn Beck. I used to hate Glenn Beck. I did back in the Ron Paul days when he was talking about the money bombs that were super famous because Ron Paul didn't have any big donors back then, but he had all these millions of people that would spontaneously do these money bombs, and then all of a sudden Ron Paul was a contender because he could he could conjure up some money for a lot of this stuff. We ought to bring that back. By the way, that is something we're exploring here at Defiance Press of Publishing. Is how can we start reorganizing some of these money bombs? My God, they were so effective back then. But anyway, I digress. Glenn Beck now is a way different creature. So is Tucker Carlson. A lot of these people change their minds over time, especially if they come from mainstream media outlets and then they go into some of this individual space. It's absolutely interesting to say the least. But okay, here, let me see here if I can find this. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so this was pretty interesting. So some of the newly released material underscores some more inconsistency about what Epstein used and whether the physical evidence matches the official bedsheet hanging and the narrative around him killing himself. So CBS reported in 2025 that a noose drawn in Epstein's official autopsy was later acknowledged by DOJ not to be the actual ligature he used. So again, more of this narrative slop that's just falling apart. The DOJ's 2023 Inspector General's report states that the noose depicted in the autopsy documentation is not the ligature Epstein used to kill himself, without clearly identifying which of several bad linen strips actually came from his neck. Photos from the cell show multiple knotted bedsheet nooses on the floor, yet there is no clear chain of custody specifying which one was taken off of Epstein's body. The intact noose versus the cut down story. So early crime scene photos obtained by 60 Minutes show a bedsheet noose laid out as evidence with both ends hemmed and intact, not cut. Officials and sources told media that Epstein was found hanging and was cut down, which implies the ligature used to suspend him should have a cut where the staff sliced it. The mismatch between an uncut evidence noose and we cut him down narrative has driven questions over whether the investigators photographed the wrong ligature or altered it later. It's just incompetence, folks. Okay. They just kind of bumbled this huge case and the suicide that happened in their correctional facility. I'm sure it's all completely normal. The ligature mark versus the bedsheet forensic photos show a relatively narrow, well-defined ligature furrow on Epstein's neck, not the broad band you typically expect from a folded bedsheet. Dr. Michael Baden, a pathologist hired by Epstein's brother who attended the autopsy, has repeatedly said the mark looks more like it came from a thinner object, like a wire or a cord, than from the thick orange sheet that was presented as the noose. Baden argues that the pattern on the skin does not match a smooth sheet, suggesting the implement that actually strangled Epstein may not be the same as the noose in evidence. So you have another medical professional on there, obviously, hired by his brother, Epstein's brother, saying none of this is jiving. Multiple outlets reported that Epstein's autopsy showed fractures of the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage, injuries that can occur in both hanging and manual strangulation, but which some experts say are more common in homicidal stranglings, especially with multiple fractures. Interesting. Baden has said the combination of neck fractures, hemorrhages, ligature patterns point much more to murder and strangulation than suicide and suicidal hanging. New commentary from Epstein's brother and his legal team in 2026 leans on those same injury patterns to argue that updated autopsy analysis will prove he was murdered, directly challenging the medical examiner's original suicide finding. Of course, the official narrative is that Epstein tore bed sheets and hung himself, yet DOJ has now conceded the news shown in key records is not the actual ligature and still is not clearly identified which item was. The combination of an uncut noose, unclear documentation on which bed sheet was on his neck, a ligature mark that appears narrower than the sheet, and the neck fractures that some experts say are more consistent with strangulation adds another layer on top of this mess. Yeah, so the basic evidence, the basic evidence here is this whole thing, this just keeps falling apart the more we dig into this stuff, folks. This just keeps falling apart. Yeah, and there was some other info. Oh, let me dig more into the breakdown from the Blaze, because I do encourage, we do this on the show. Other channels here, other organizations that are doing some really good work. The Blaze is doing some awesome work, guys. I always recommend people to. We're not shy about pushing people to other channels here. It's a good thing. So back segments, he's talking about these major findings, the flags involved with this, the red flags, if you will. The noose that Epstein allegedly used has never been clearly identified or preserved as a single documented piece of evidence. The official logs and video claims no one entering the tier have now been undercut by newer material from the DOJ and network reporting. Um, yeah, and he was saying on the show they don't know where the actual noose is, which tracks with CBS and DOJ OIG disclosures, by the way, folks. Um, and of course, the new bombshell timing stores revised logs, the orange figure on the stairs, and yeah, the Blaze's own news reporting on the file dump relies heavily on these DOJ press releases. This is why, I always encourage people to go and look to see what their reporting is. This is good stuff. Um, yeah, so all this confusion. Yeah, it's fair to say at this point, and really it was fair to say early on, this is nothing new to a lot of us that have been following this. Of course, they're doctoring this investigation. Of course, there's inconsistencies in it. This was a huge case. Um, if there's ever even a remote possibility that someone like Epstein gets in custody and he's connected to all these people and they might talk, of course they killed him. I mean, when I say they, who's they? Is this people in the CIA? Is it people in other foreign intelligence operations? You could speculate all you want, but there is a they. I'll put it that way. There is a they there, and if you're looking at, no, I'm not talking about trans identifiers here. I'm talking about they as in the federal government, whatever apparatchik is being used by them to kill these people. Want a good example of this kind of stuff? Go look up the case of the DC madam over there out of Washington D.C. Her name's slipping me, of course. Um, I think that was Deborah Jean Palfrey. For those that don't think that uh, the FBI, the CIA, all these agencies, and everybody in government, and I think internationally, I don't really look at the CIA and MI5, MI6, and Mossad as being separate entities. I think these groups are absolutely international in their scope. I think they work together on this kind of things. And the self preserving nature of governments and the interdependence that contrives of, according to the United Nations, because we're not supposed to be independent countries. We're supposed to be interdependent on each other uh, when it comes to feeding you or manufacturing, or in this case, whatever criminal schemes are being conjured up. They work together to quash these stories. Deborah Jean Palfrey, again, never forget it. She went on the Alex Jones show to state that she was not suicidal. This is after she was packing up to move to England. Definitely wanted out of this escort agency she was tied to in Washington, D.C. But as she was moving, she started getting hit with these charges. She started being followed, and then they brought a criminal case against her. And obviously, it was very obvious at the time, and you'll see it when you read into the story. It looked to me, to everybody that was watching, it looked like folks with inside the government and maybe some other agencies or intel agencies elsewhere. It looked like she was fleeing and getting ready to talk. That's the only thing that makes sense about any of that stuff. So she started coming down with this, and then started coming on Alex Jones show and talking about. She said, "You know what? I'm just going to start dropping names. I'm just going to go out there and you know um, they want to put me." They want to throw me under the bus when I'm connected to all this stuff. We have a bunch of witnesses and they're willing to testify. So I'm just going to bring this out in court. And then not long, I think it was a week after she appeared on that Alex Jones show, she was found hung in an outside garage. I believe her mother found her, and she had bruises all over her body and everything along those lines. So nothing new under the sun. If you're getting ready to talk, which is going to be interesting to follow the Ghislaine Maxwell case, because there's been rumblings. Now, to me, they look like rumors um, that she might be getting ready to spill the beans a little bit on this. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. Because if that is the case, I doubt she's going to make it uh, much long after that. If that is the route she's actually taking. So Deborah Jean Palfrey, DC Madam, huge case. Get yourself familiar with it. Yeah, she was 52 years old. when she died. Pretty sad story, but yeah, if you're onto something, you might talk and expose some of these people. They will find a way to get you. They will absolutely find a way to get you. Okay, let's see here. Continuing on some of this breakdown, some of these latest revelations. Yeah, of course, we went through that. Um, yeah, the DOJ announcing a death internally before the body was even found or was even cold. Um, yeah, this is just crazy. That was another thing I wanted to show the class here, which is, did anybody else see the Ghislaine Maxwell prison footage that was making its round? Let me see if I can find it here live. Because to me, this is just another example of narrative building bullshit. And let me do this here. So everybody's been hearing about the lavish lifestyle that Ghislaine Maxwell has had in her prison cell. And then of course this dropped, I don't know, this was sometime last week. This shows her in a prison cell. The only problem, of course, with this is this was back from 2020 when she was first arrested. Okay. This isn't her current living conditions. All right, folks. So why even put this out there? You know, why, to me, this is more government federal narrative slop to say, you know, just put out there, somebody leaks this out there. See, look, we are being tough on Ghislaine Maxwell, or we're being tough on this stuff. And really, I mean, this is from years ago. So thanks for showing information. Um, and that's another interesting part of it. Apparently, there's no cameras at her less restrictive prison that she's been transferred to. She's in minimum security prisons, which prohibits cameras and other types of surveillance in there. But you know, again, this is you're going to see this kind of stuff. You know, this kind of formulation of a narrative that we're going after the bad guys, we're going after these pedophiles. And look, see, look at this video out there that just mysteriously leaked and kind of supports the federal narrative that we're being tough on these pedophile networks and we're being tough on crime and all this kind of stuff. And it's just anything but that. Um, Here's some more interesting tidbits on the video. Let's see here. So, and again, I was seeing this from this was from CBS and Wired's technical work. The DOJ gave out what it called nearly 11 hours of raw surveillance footage from the area near Epstein's cell for the hours around his death. But this is what, again, just to remind folks, the supposed raw file shows clear traces of having been processed in Adobe software with metadata indicating it was saved at least 4 times on May 23rd, 2025 by a Windows user account named MJ Cole. One of the source clips was about 2 minutes and 53 seconds longer than what appears in the release segment, meaning some footage was trimmed before release. CBS's own frame-by-frame review shows a mysterious orange shape moving up the stairs towards Epstein's cell around 10:40 p.m. on August 9th. An individual never mentioned in the government's public narrative, a clear on-screen cursor and DVR menu overlay suggesting the recording is a screen capture stitched from at least 2 segments, not a direct export of raw DVR footage. A jump forward of roughly a minute just before midnight, accompanied by a change in aspect ratio, undermining DOJ claims that the video is continuous, untouched evidence. And of course, the DOJ Inspector General report insisted that only 2 staff entered the special housing unit after midnight and that no other individuals came into the tier. But CBS, okay, mainstream even reported that a third unidentified individual appears on the video, contradicting that assertion. Even CBS, which still accepts the suicide as a possible outcome, concluded the video does little to provide evidence for the government's own claims and contains multiple inconsistencies with witness statements and official count. Yeah, so missing unknown news, super inconsistent with the official narrative as far as, okay, was it a bed sheet? Was it a rope? Was it a wire? Was it a cord? Why would they? I mean, to me, that's super suspicious. You saw that all over media. You saw it in the Gurney image I just posted. The bed sheet, the orange, all tied down and fashioned into a noose. So, obviously there's some staging going on. Let's see. Yeah. So, and again, we're going to see more about, we'll see if anything in these Epstein files, gives us some more detail to this, but obviously, we are still just being bamboozled here. And what do I mean by that? So, um, the this is what I really wanted to get into. This is definitely something interesting. Okay, so in line with this, while we're getting uh, new information about the obvious mishandling of the case, or however you want to frame it, that's up to you guys. Y'all can speculate that, but this is a good example of what I'm talking about the self-preserving nature of these agencies, these bureaucracies that have no interest in doing anything of substance other than just keeping their agency going. An agency that's obviously, and like, we've had these discussions on the broadcast before. You know, FBI's fine if you just get your people in there. Well, we got our people in. How we doing? We doing any better? There is no justification for the ATF, the FBI, and a lot of these agencies to exist, except for ICE, because ICE actually has a job to do. Uh, Not quite sure what the FBI and the ATF says, other than to cover up for these huge scandals. Okay, so let's jump over to this one. Okay, the numbers sound so heroic. Man, just the FBI just going to get these nasty pedophiles, these nasty bad guys. The Department of Justice says it just finished a nationwide crackdown on child predators called Operation Relentless Justice. 205 child victims located, 293 child sex abuse offenders arrested in just 2 weeks. Pam Bondi vows that no child will be forgotten. And FBI Director Kash Patel says these operations show historic results in locating children and taking predators off the street. On X, Patel boasts the relentless justice is part of a year-long push. 6,000 children located or rescued, up 22% from 2024. Nearly 2,000 child predators arrested, up 10%. 300 plus human traffickers, up 15%. We're not letting up. Add earlier campaigns like Operation Cross Country, and the story coming out of Washington is simple. The FBI is finally unleashing unprecedented force on pedophile networks and sex traffickers. The numbers are real. The prosecutions are real. The question is the narrative? So, what's actually inside relentless justice? So, when you leave the national press release and dig into district level write ups, Operation Relentless Justice looks less like one massive conspiracy takedown and more like patchwork of individual cases. This is so interesting, folks. I had no idea about this stuff. Credit to Steve Baker and Kyle Serafin on really, ex FBI employee. I always tend to go and listen to them because they know kind of the behavior in these bureaucracies. It's real good to get information. They can crack down on what's just hyperbole, what's real, what's not, and where the real inconsistencies are. And this is obviously one of them. And again, individual cases, many of them rooted in abuse, image trading investigations that have been unfolding for years. In the Eastern District of Virginia, DOJ says 4 offenders connected to Operation Relentless Justice were arrested or charged. A man charged with coercing a minor to produce sexually explicit images. Another charged with receiving child sexual abuse material. A defendant charged with travel to engage in illicit sexual conduct with a minor. A fourth charged with transporting CSAM. In the Southern District of Illinois, the four relentless justice cases are distribution of child pornography, attempted solicitation of child pornography, interstate travel to sexually abuse a minor, and transportation of child pornography by a former police officer. These are serious crimes. But they are not a named international ring, a cartel, or tightly organized domestic networks. They're standalone offenders and long running investigations that the DOJ has bundled under a single brand. So, I'm not okay with this, right? Obviously, we want these people to be arrested and all this stuff. So, to me, it's just police agencies doing their job, basically. So, but again, I have a problem with this rolling this out like we're uncovering some vast network and we're doing the job. I know you'll want us to attack stuff on Epstein, but look over here at this shiny thing. Look at this shiny thing. We're doing stuff. We're doing some good stuff. Look at this stuff. Look at this Operation Relentless Justice. This is stuff that you're going to like so that yeah, I don't know that most people are buying it. Even Patel's ex post hints at the timeline games being played. He admits relentless justice is part of a year-long effort in which the FBI is retroactively aggregating 6,000 children located or rescued, nearly 2,000 child predators arrested. Those totals don't refer only to this 2-week operation. They sweep an entire year of disparate cases and remarket them as a unified surge. Not not ideal, folks. Not ideal. And just gives even more credence to the people calling for Patel's head, figuratively. Operation Cross Country has been run for 4 years as the FBI's flagship human trafficking operation. And of course, in Cross Country X, the FBI announced 239 child sex traffickers and their associates, arresting 82 children rescued in 4 days. Later cross country iterations produced headlines like 200 victims of sex trafficking and 59 actively missing children located, which sounds like mass liberation from organized traffic rings. When Reason and victims advocates dug into the underlying case mix, they found a jumble: some genuine trafficking, some local prostitution related cases, some adults in the sex trade who were counted as victims for FBI statistics, and a relatively small number of cases that match the public's mental image of a large coordinated trafficking network. The same thing is now happening with relentless justice. The headline phrase is child sex predators and human traffickers. The body of the release documents mostly individual defendants whose crimes and digital footprints often go back years. So a lot of these cases are from the 90s, apparently. Public relations language about networks and webs of crime is doing a lot of work that the actual indictments are not. So if this were just aggressive branding, it would be annoying, but not sinister. The deeper problem is that the DOJ's own inspector general, child safety advocates, and journalists have documented a pattern of delay, neglect, failure in FBI child abuse cases, even after the Larry Nassar scandal. For those of you that remember, yeah, 2024 Justice Department Inspector General audit reviewed 325 FBI cases involving child sexual abuse tips. In one case, a child was abused for 15 months while the FBI failed to act on the tip. In another, a 2-year-old was abused for 21 months while the Bureau did nothing. And 47% of the cases reviewed, the FBI did not follow mandatory reporting rules to notify state or local authorities. In 43% of cases, auditors concluded the FBI needed to take additional investigative steps that had simply never been done. These findings echo the Nassar debacle, where at least 70 gymnasts were abused during a year of FBI inaction after credible allegations were first reported. What's not tying into this article, who remembers the Penn State scandal? Same stuff there. FBI, you remember the memes that were going around where it shows Bart Simpson in class and everybody's going, say it. And they turn around and it's Bart Simpson in an FBI hat saying he was on our radar. Same kind of stuff here. Survivors and advocates like attorney John Manley and Senator Lauren Book have stated bluntly, the FBI is failing to fulfill its duty in protecting our children. Yeah, so when you're seeing the other side of that record and you're seeing the DOJ and the FBI trumpet these historic results, but it's the same institution that let these abuses run for 15 to 21 months, for just these small, obvious cases that could been referred to local jurisdictions to get the stuff. Um, yeah, it just seems like a punch and duty show at this point. Um, so, Deputy Attorney General Caroline Blanche was recently pressed on criticism that DOJ is not taking exploitation seriously enough. And again, this is what they're doing. She pointed to the operations like Restore Justice, Relentless Justice, describing them as proof of an extraordinary commitment to fighting child abuse and trafficking. And she blasted select members of Congress and some in the public eye who she said ignore the work while accusing DOJ of indifference. Um, yeah, and again, you're seeing this kind of emotional framing on X, rescuing children, saving lives, predators off the street. What's almost never highlighted, of course, in the on these posts from the DOJ and the FBI is how many of the victims were identified through years old images rather than physically rescued from current captivity. That's right, folks. A lot of these victims that they're touting as being rescued, they're well into their 30s at this point. Some of them in their 40s, apparently, and some of them older, and some of them are no longer alive. How many of the predators were already known to law enforcement or flagged in earlier tips that weren't acted on properly? How many of these human traffickers are being charged with actual trafficking statutes versus lesser offenses like CSAM possession, enticement, or failure to register? Um, in other words, the Bureau responds to criticism about neglect and delay by pointing to big numbers that often include the very backlog of cases it failed to handle properly in the first place. God. Oh my God. I got to tell you, covering this stuff, it just, we were really optimistic in the beginning of this stuff, but it's just going to show no matter who's in office, this stuff just keeps going on. And yeah, they tout itself with their very own backlog to say they're having victory. So uh, I don't know. What do y'all think? You think this is a victorious lap? Or are you going to get up out of your seat and go run around saying they're finally bringing down these networks? I did want to kind of hone in on what Kyle Seraphin and Steve Baker were talking about this. Again, highly recommend. I encourage people to go over to their channels and go and see what they're saying on this. Very credible, very good reporting on some of this stuff, and really appreciate opinion of FBI whistleblowers when it comes to this kind of stuff. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's some of their critique. Every time DOJ counts an arrest that could have happened months or earlier as part of a 2-week crackdown, it is effectively turning prior inaction into current PR value. So child victims whose abuse continued during those months of delay are now folded into victory statistics, inflating the sense of organized networks. So by using emotionally charged language, predator networks, webs of crime, what else did they use? Nationwide crackdowns. The Bureau invites the public to imagine vast, tightly run pedophile rings being smashed. But when you read the actual indictments, most cases are lone offenders, online traders of pedophilic material, or small clusters of offenders, not the kind of Epstein scale networks people assume. And of course, the statistical fog. So, victims, rescues, and located children. DOJ often blurs the lines between rescued, identified, and located, apparently. A child whose abuse images are identified in a database, a missing child found after a tip, and a child literally recovered from a trafficking situation can all be counted under victims or children located. The moral weight is the same, but the optics, of course, are very different. Uh, and of course, high profile child exploitation operations give the FBI a powerful shield. If you criticize the Bureau's politicization, surveillance cultures, or failures in other areas, officials can point to relentless justice style operations and accuse you of ignoring the children we're saving. And that's exactly what Blanche is doing, quoting scrutiny of DOJ's transparency and priorities with indifference to child victims. So no, nothing very serious about any of this stuff. Yeah, there's so very, very obvious. PR type of things that are happening. Anything but getting to the actual crux of, you know, the arrest that I think we all want to see. I think if you're listening to this show, whether you're left or right on it, we want to see some of these arrests. I know a lot of you on the left are just drooling for Trump to be a part of it, but I just what is that on that stupid girl movie? Uh, oh, what is it? Mean Girls. Quit trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. It may down the road though, because once they sweep the midterms, you guys can go on screeching about how you need to impeach him, how you've cared about these victims the whole time, even though you just found out about it yesterday. And yeah, I'm sure they will try to make examples out of Trump post elect or post presidency, and I'm sure we'll see some of that. And the government itself, the federal government, has a historical nature of being petty. Don't believe me? Just go and look at the history of Robert E. Lee and what happened to his gravesite there. Pretty interesting stuff. Okay, moving on. Okay. This is mainstream media doing mainstream media things. And let me just see if I can kind of hone in on this article and give you really deliver what we're talking about here. Let's see. What I'm looking for. Okay, I think I got one here. Okay, so the Atlantic was putting out some pretty interesting headline. Oh, did they change this headline? 9:44 looks like they let me see if I can find the X post, because the X post really does this justice when you're looking at this stuff. Let's see here. Let's see if I had this bookmark somewhere. Surely I'm getting better with my bookmarks, folks. Getting better with my bookmarks. Let's see. Oh, maybe I'm not getting that good. Okay, this is what was making its way around the ether. Let me just share my screen with the class here. You can see for yourself as I live scroll through this. If you're seeing on screen here, this is from the Atlantic. The Epstein files reveal that plenty of powerful people tolerated or participated in disgusting, shameful, and even criminal behavior. But they also bolster the case that there never was any grand conspiracy. So listen, folks, the Atlantic told you. Yeah, there's some stuff there. We know there's people resigning over there in Europe and the UK and all that fun, but there's really no grand conspiracy here. They almost sound like the DOJ. Um, and of course, for those of us that have a memory, who remembers these type of articles that we're making out? And folks, if you can't read the headline there, it says the great, in parentheses, fake child sex trafficking epidemic. Man, it's almost like the media is doing similar slop to our government there. Little bit of a problem when you dive in kind of the history of the Atlantic. So this is what I noticed when you go and look up the connections between Epstein and the Atlantic. And of course, Epstein had tentacles out to a lot of different folks. This is kind of what you see these similar narratives to what the government's saying. There's really no grand conspiracy. Well, there might be, but we don't really know. The child trafficking networks are a fake epidemic, but of course, these same people now, I'm sure they're saying, Republicans are running it now, or whatever the case may be. The only odd part to that, of course, is some of the connections itself to this. So let's see if we can dive in, shall we? Cover this here. This is the segment called. Oh, wait. That ain't it. That ain't it now. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what's going on. This is a great example of kind of the media ecosystem and how they operate, almost like the government does in a lot of this regard. The Atlantic is not a neutral observer in the Epstein saga. Oh my goodness, folks. That's right. Breaking news here, right? Its owner and coverage both sit squarely inside the same social and journalistic ecosystem that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell cultivated for decades. When you factor in the social relationship between Lauren Powell Jobs and Maxwell and the way the Atlantic writers handled the Epstein's ties to journalists and political elites, the picture is much closer to an implicated institution managing a narrative than a detached outlet simply explaining the scandal. What I mean by that? Let's dive in. Laureen Powell Jobs, through Emerson Collective, is the lead investor and chair of The Atlantic. Public reporting is clear that she owns The Atlantic via Emerson and directs its overall media strategy in line with her philanthropic and political priorities. Independent outlets and social media investigations have highlighted a widely shared photograph showing Ghislaine Maxwell and Laureen Powell together in swimwear, laughing on what appears to be a yacht or similar leisure setting dated around 2011. Oh man, that's pretty gold. So when you this is always the fun part about social media. This is what I love about social media, especially on X, is let's just do this live so I can show the class what I'm talking about here. You'll get the article here, and then people just start dropping their receipts. There it is. There's Lauren Powell Jobs with Ghislaine Maxwell, just leisurely hanging out, tits out, just kind of chilling, talking about being a villain and getting high as a ceiling, and just totally normal, interesting stuff. So I'm sure we shouldn't take the headlines with a bucket of salt, only a grain of it, and just know that the Atlantic is nuanced. And just like a lot of our agencies in government, you can trust them. They're real and they're looking out for you. Anyway, and yeah, so coverage in the week explicitly notes that since an earlier Atlantic piece on Maxwell, a photo legend to show them in bathing suits together, confirming that mainstream media are aware of this image and Powell's social proximity to Epstein and his chief co-conspirator. Let's see. X post and Instagram commentary identify the mystery woman next to Maxwell as Laureen Powell Jobs and link that fact directly to her role as owner of the Atlantic. Um, yeah, and we're seeing this again. You see this all over social media. Um, yeah, and just a reminder here, the key point on this is the Atlantic's controlling owner was not merely in the same city or at the same conference as Maxwell. She was photographed with her, friendly sitting with her years before Maxwell's arrest. And of course, we don't have any explanation from Lorene Powell Jobs or the Atlantic itself. Um, Inside that context, and again, we'll go through these headlines again. The Atlantic's editorial line on Epstein looks far less disinterested. So the 2025 feature on the newly released Epstein emails foregrounds material damaging to Donald Trump, emphasizing Epstein's nasty private descriptions of Trump in emails where Epstein muses about leveraging Trump politically. The piece uses this to undercut populist narratives that Trump was uniquely positioned to expose an elite pedophile network, instead casting him as just another compromised insider. A 2026 essay on the Epstein files warns about a wave of firings, resignations, and public apologies, supposedly driven by guilt by association. And of course, the framing is that the public is overreacting. You guys are overreacting out there to the appearance of a grand conspiracy when really there is one. These are just power brokers that got friendly with Epstein. And of course, a 2025 newsletter piece digs into journalist Michael Wolff's cozy communication with Epstein, highlighting emails where Wolff advises Epstein on how to use his knowledge of Trump for PR and political leverage and how he might finish him off politically. The Atlantic portrays this as a case study in a journalist getting too close to a subject, yes, yet uses it primarily as a way to talk about Trump and psychology. So it's not a conspiracy over here, but when it comes to Trump, oh, it's definitely one. They're all in on it. We should impeach him, and the orange man is bad. So we're still on that. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, let's see some of this. Meanwhile, newer reporting outside the Atlantic has laid out highly specific operational ties between Ghislaine Maxwell and the Clinton Global Initiative, including her role in advising on CGI's launch, facilitating large wire transfers to pay a major PR firm, interacting regularly with senior Clinton aides, and participating in high level planning around Clinton world events and messaging. These are not vague photo together connections. They are documented work relationships in the core of a global political operation. Yet the Atlantic's coverage up to this year has focused heavily on the Trump material, European politicians, abstract concerns about associations tied to Trump, while giving far less prominence to the granular Maxwell Clinton infrastructure that is emerging from the same document trove. So I think what you're seeing here, folks, is kind of the interdimensional battle with the power brokers up top on this team or that team. There's still power brokers involved. It's they gotta steer it on one direction over here, and the other side's got to go do the same. And then we're the public here in the middle, just taking the slot for a ride. Um, yeah. So let's see here. Just a quick recap outside the Atlantic. So the body of reporting we're seeing now after this release of these 3 million files, um, Epstein's relationship with journalists, editors, media moguls, scientists. I mean, international folks here. Scientific American's deep dive into the files describes Epstein's complicated relationship with science and journalism, noting that he sat on the board of the magazine Seed, mentioned at least 78 times in the documents, and funded or courted scientists whose work and prestige could then be featured in media. So, of course, this was going along the transhumanist stuff that he was into, as well as the transgender agenda itself. How you could castrate a 3-year-old boy and make him more feminine, and you would hardly notice. Just typical, total normal stuff that one day we're going to look back on and go, "Why were we doing this?" And yeah, so all you folks pushing the transgender stuff, you're in good company here with Epstein and his wackos. Um, the DOJ derived reporting indicates Epstein leaned on billionaire media owner Mortimer Zuckerman, then controlling the New York Daily News to shape coverage as allegations mounted, even scripting answers he thought Zuckerman should give to reporters asking about whether he and Maxwell repeatedly abused a particular minor. That's not passive association, it's active media management by a predator. This guy had access to these outlets. So whenever could you imagine having that at your fingertips? Oh, I don't really like this story here. Let me just email my buddy over here at the New York Post. And if you get asked this is maybe how you should answer it. If you get asked this is by the way, in this interview, you should talk about this or talk about that. And obviously, in some of these emails, which is interesting, well, the mainstream media is not covered. I'm not even seeing that many people on the right. Is the active participation of Epstein in trying to coordinate Trump's destruction. So, you'd think you wouldn't need to do that much of it if he's littered in all these files. And of course, we covered, I think that was that was either last week broadcast or the one before that. We went through all the allegations in Trump from these tip hotlines and people buried under golf courses and all this kind of stuff. Turns out a lot of those witnesses were not credible. So we'll see more about that. The Atlantic's own coverage of Michael Wolff reproduces emails showing a journalist providing strategic advice to Epstein on how to exploit Trump, explicitly tying the utility of those leaks to elections and public opinion. Um, so, in other words, independent and non Atlantic sources collectively show Epstein investing in media adjacent boards and science brands, trying to use major newspaper owners as shields and cultivate journalists who would both flatter and weaponize his inside knowledge. Of course, there's the congressman or the congresswoman, I should say, on the Democratic side. Plaskett, was it Plaskett? I can't remember the name. I don't really care. Um, Yeah, and she was actively texting back and forth with Epstein during a congressional committee. So not just media heads and moguls. We're talking about actual government employees as well. Um, yeah, and again, um, if you take this framing, uh, The connective tissue looks like this. Lauren Powell Jobs controls the Atlantic and appears in a friendly private setting with Ghislaine Maxwell years before as Maxwell's arrest. And of course, this is all speculated as fact now. That was a real picture. Epstein and Maxwell's systemically courted media owners, science brands, and journalists, multiple journalists, power brokers, Michael Wolff, Mortimer Zuckerman, Mortimer Zuckerman, I'm probably mispronouncing that, and others are now documented to having engaged in deeply inappropriate self-serving. Don't forget university professors, apparently, outside of him getting his weird job at Harvard somehow, despite having no background to do so. Um, so yeah, we get more and more of this stuff. So the Atlantic is obviously part of this syndicate. And again, yeah, just for folks, see so you can see. So after reading that and you see these headlines, I think you kind of get the picture of what I'm painting here. There's no child sex trafficking epidemic. Everything is fine. We are going to bring you the truth. Uh, yeah, there's no grand conspiracy about any of this stuff. It's all in your own head, and we should shut up and just trust the government and trust the media because they're going to tell us everything. They're going to kiss our boo boo and make everything great. Uh, Now, in relation to this, I wanted to jump over to another aspect of the mainstream medias as far as you know coverage of anything serious or stuff that we need to know, because the stuff that we need to know they're not talking about. That's the other part of covering these news cycles. It's very frustrating. There's so much other news and material that I'd like to get out there and focus on, but instead we're spent the top of the hour talking about the stupid ass Super Bowl and a bunch of artists I don't even know. I don't even know how you call these artists. I don't even know how you call a lot of that stuff music, especially after reading the lyrics on there. But here we are, um, doing that thing. Uh, this is at Catherine Harridge's. Catherine Harridge. So yeah, let's get into this one here. Catherine Harridge allegations ignite fresh firestorm over media, politics, and the Hunter Biden laptop. So, Catherine Harridge is one of the most respected investigative journalists in American television news. I didn't know that was a possibility. Is that an oxymoron? Investigative journalist in American television? It's now at the center of a media earthquake, and it's her own industry that stands accused. In a series of detailed accounts, Harridge has alleged that CBS News leadership buried her vetted Hunter Biden laptop reporting until after the 2022 midterm elections, a decision she and her supporters say amounted to deliberate election interference by omission. Of course, we know these. I think a lot of us know this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of, follow that media landscape. And of course, they covered up a lot of this stuff. Anything damaging to the Democratic Party, they were going to cover up, especially with regard to that election. The 90-degree angle spike in the middle of the night while we all went to sleep, where it was showing Trump on track to just absolutely win that election. But again, nothing to see here. Fortunately, we did get some more PR and a raid, I guess you can say, in Fulton County. And are they going to get anywhere with that? Was that all just to feed the pigs some manure to kind of chew on and think we're the good guys and we're all going to celebrate on our social media accounts about how they're doing the great stuff? But to me, it's all theater at this point. Anyway, I digress. In a series of detailed accounts, Harridge has alleged that CBS News leadership buried her vetted Hunter Biden laptop reporting until after the 2022 midterm elections, a decision she and her supporters say amounted to deliberate interference by omission. And of course, for viewers, for you guys out there listening to us, you're already skeptical of legacy media, its relationship with political power. This basically just confirms really not what suspicions we have, but what we all knew and could see if you weren't blind. All right, let's get into it. The story that didn't air. According to Heritage, the controversy traces back to the fall of 2020 at the height of the presidential campaign. She says Excuse me, folks. Let me wet my whistle here. She says she obtained and verified key material from Hunter Biden's laptop, including documentation of $1 million retainer from a Chinese energy firm and related business communications that raised serious questions about the Biden family's foreign business entanglements. We heard for years about Russia, Russia, Russia. Did we hear anything about China and this actual linked stuff here, especially as it relates to the Ukraine, apparently? The reporting she maintains was vetted, sourced, and ready for air, yet the story never ran. Instead, Americans watched as major outlets and former intelligence officials cast doubt on the laptop's authenticity, labeling it, wait for it, Russian disinformation. Oh, that's a potent one there. As soon as you hear the Russia, that's the story. That's enough for the left to go. See, he's a Putin. It's a Trump. He's a Putin. This laptop stuff, it's a Putin. It's a Russia. Whereas people on the right now, you hear about Russia, you know it's something to dig into because you know they're lying about something. Let's see here. Inside CBS, Harridge recalls her work sat on the shelf. She has described watching 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl tell then President Trump on air that the laptop could not be verified, even though Harridge believed she had already done the verification work within the network. The moment, she has said, left her feeling sick as her own newsroom publicly denied what she contends it knew to be true. Harridge account sketches a stark timeline. So documentation in hand 2020, no broadcast during the presidential race, and a public posture of skepticism from CBS as social media platforms throttled the laptop story in the weeks before the election day. That's right. Only in November 2022, after the midterms elections, did CBS finally air a forensic analysis confirming the laptop data was authentic. Of course, that was, once the impact on the voting process, they could just put it out there, pat you on the head, and people who support, the Democrats, they really like to call out the double-sided hypocrisy on the right, but they do the bird box when it comes to this stuff. It's just not there. It's only Trump because Trump is really bad. Okay. Don't you see it? Don't you see it? Trump is so bad and it looks really bad over there, but I'm not going to look over there. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Anyway, I go on. So that would mean the country's premier news organizations withheld verified information that could damage a major political figure. And his party, wasn't it in 2016? Wasn't it WikiLeaks who got a lot of the information that was out there? That's what I thought, or at least, yeah. Yeah, for years, debate around the Hunter Biden laptop has focused on social media platforms and intelligence veterans who signed public letters questioning the story. Yeah, and of course, with Harridge's allegations, now we got a new layer. You got to listen. I mean, this feels kind of silly to cover. I mean, we know this. Who was the gal that interviewed a lot of Epstein's victims, and she had the story and she was mad because a lower agency or a lower network came out with the story. She said they had everything, but her bosses told her to shut it down and all this kind of stuff. So I think this is not very surprising, but confirmation nonetheless. The laptop dispute is only one part of a broader pattern Harridge and her allies say reveals how power responds when journalism targets sensitive subjects. In February 2024, CBS laid off Harridge as part of broader cuts. What happened next shocked many in the industry. The network seized her reporting files, computers, and records, including material she says contained confidential source information. Seems pretty bold there. The move drew public condemnation from press freedom advocates and former CBS journalists who labeled it unprecedented and warned it would send a chilling signal to investigative reporters across the country. Does anybody remember hearing about that story? That seems like a fairly large scandal. And it's always funny to me because these news organizations like to point out bringing truth to power, and we need to uncover the truth, and we need to do this, we need to do that, and then they point at whatever administration's in power and say, look how bad they're handling this kind of stuff, and then literally they operate this same exact way that the government does with a lot of this kind of stuff. Harridge herself later described the seizure to Congress in deeply personal terms, calling it journalistic rape and arguing that network of Walter Cronkite had crossed a red line by taking custody of sensitive source materials, rather than immediately returning or securing them in a way that protected confidentiality. Images she released of boxes of her files and equipment stacked under CPS control further inflamed the backlash, serving as a visceral illustration of what many interpreted as corporate retaliation against a reporter who had spent her career digging into politically explosive stories. Alongside the corporate confrontation, Heritage has also faced legal pressure, of course, because once you do this kind of stuff, the federal government they'll just go right after you. In 2024, a federal judge held her in civil contempt for refusing to reveal a confidential source involved in a story about a national security investigation, a rare and serious step that carried fines and specter of escalating penalties. The case highlighted a long simmering tension between leak investigations and press freedom, placing Heritage once more at the center of a battle over how far the government can go to compel journalists to identify their sources. Yeah, again, this goes on and on. She's got a really good interview that's circling around on social media. That's Catherine Herridge. Catherine Herridge allegations. I highly recommend, if you don't have an X account, go ahead and get in there, type in her name, and go see what she's talking about, because it's absolutely interesting. Let's see here. Now, I had another point to go on with that, with the that's the other thing about doing this show like this. We kind of go live. We barely really script anything out, in the beginning of the show, and then we kind of just go in different directions. That's why I like when Mark's here, because he likes to ask, "Did you hear about X, Y, or Z?" And then maybe I didn't hear about it, and we can pull it up live here on air and really go into some of these details, and it does some pretty revealing things when we do it that way. So I kind of like to hang on it that like that. Let's see here if we've got ongoing revelations with regard to that. Okay. So let's go over to, and of course I can't find these stories because I got pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell with their titties hanging out with the owner of the Atlantic. That's not fun. Let's take that off my screen. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, there's clips of her interviews right there. Why don't I go ahead and play it? Here, I'll share with the class. Why not? Let's see if I can do this here. This should be. Could share with the audio here. This is Catherine Herridge herself. You can take a listen.
Elections in 2022. We eventually broadcast a story about the Hunter Biden laptop after the midterm elections in 2022. We commissioned a forensic review. I got a copy of the laptop data. I have it here still. I went to a lot of effort to get the cleanest copy of the laptop data, the same data that was provided to the FBI, because I didn't want to have any professional journalistic risk for CBS News. I wanted this thing to be totally locked down. When we did the story, we did it after the midterms. I argued against that because it was ready before the midterms. And my training is that you should always do the story when it's ready to go. You should not be dictated by the political cycle. Once we got the laptop story on the morning news, I felt that there was so much there that we could still do. For example, in the text messages, there's unfortunately the use of the N-word, the liberal use of the N-word. And I thought this was worthy of a story, but I was told that it was not something that interested CBS News. Then I asked for a forensic review of the laptop, and we found that there were more than half a dozen emails that were likely used by Joe Biden. I thought that was a story, But the answer that came back was, well, we need to know what the content is of the emails. But that was going to be a years long process. So there was no way. So there were a lot of reasons I was told not to do it, not to pursue it. I spent a lot of my time at CBS following the Hunter Biden story, and one of the things that really struck me is this kind of disconnect. I didn't understand how a senior executive like George Cheese could tell me that this was a high priority for the network and for his boss, and yet the executives at CBS News, show producers, anchors could refuse that. I came to the conclusion that they must have felt that they were more powerful than George Cheeks, which was astonishing to me. I'd never worked at a place where a directive from the top would be so defied.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to me that some of these people, in these mainstream circles, they're kind of shocked by the kind of the behavior of some of these people, and I imagine it is shocking when you're working for these agencies and you just kind of see how it's blatantly out there. So anyway, that's that's interesting to say the least. Go and check that out whenever you can. Catherine Hedridge, and she kind of looks like the prototypical, actual journalist. Kind of the detective laden style kind of journalist. Pretty fascinating. I wish it was like that. I wish it was people like that that ran these organizations. She doesn't even look like she's much of the conservative bent, but you can't always judge a book by its cover. Um, definitely interesting to say the least. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can, folks, and if you have seen some of these Epstein files and you want to know it's real, feel free to drop it in the comments or in the chat, and I'll go see if we can do this live in real time. So one of the ones I'm going to do here, and I haven't looked into this, so I'm doing this live with the class for the first time. Apparently, there's an email going around. It was sent to Epstein in 2013. It was stating, "You offered to buy my baby 6 months into our relationship." Um, that's pretty interesting. We told there was nothing of the sort in there. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go to the Department of Justice's website, search the library. Okay, well, we're doing this live here, so I'm just going to show you on screen. This is just one example, because you can go and see where a lot of this stuff is faded or faked out. So this was the original tweet. So what I did, I just went and copied this statement here and typed it or pasted it into the DOJ's website. So let's go see this email that everybody's talking about. This is data set 9 and 10. Yes, 18 of age. Okay, let's see if this is actually in here. Let's read this together. Of course, this is weird stuff, so your discretion advised, I'm sure. This is redacted. Do we know who wrote this? Okay, well, let's just go through it. What was said on here was okay, so we don't know if this is from an ex-girlfriend, so I might have misspoke a little bit earlier. We don't know who this is from. So here it reads, there were quite a few things that were known parts of our lives that we never discussed in writing. This is an email from redacted to Jeff Epstein. I can't convince you of what you said, but your interpretation of past events and emails is different from mine. While they may not confirm the existence of your promise, they certainly don't disprove it. Maybe you forgot, maybe you didn't mean it, but it doesn't change the fact that I lived for years under the impression that my future was safe. I can't go back 10 years and change my decisions. I don't know what to do with that information now. When I met you, I wouldn't accept money from you. You used to sneak $100 bills into my fake Louis Vuitton purse. As time passed, you made me believe it was okay to accept it, accept it, and be able to feel safe. Not really following that. It was not my idea. It was very uncomfortable for me, and I would never come up with such a deal, or even ask you for money. It was only after years of you making all kinds of voluntary promises and commitments that I started to believe it was okay and could rely on your support. You made many unusual offers. You offered to buy my baby 6 months into our relationship, and 6 years later, you offered to support my next boyfriend. Do you remember that? Okay. All right. So I can confirm, yeah, this is definitely in the files here. Let me just highlight that part. So it almost does read like a scorned ex-girlfriend a little bit. Oh, folks, let me read that for the class again. For those of you that are not seeing it on screen, you made many unusual offers. You offered to buy my baby 6 months into our relationship. When I was single and running around town, I don't really remember, talking to ex-girlfriends about, "Oh, you got a baby? Can I buy it? Can I buy it?" I wonder what Epstein was buying babies for. And that's pretty bold. That's a pretty bold, comforting position to be in where you have a relationship with a female and you can offer to purchase their child. This is pretty wild. Folks, this is a world that we've got I don't think we have any idea how bad this really gets. I really don't. Um, yeah, and then this email goes on about how I was helping you and doing this and yeah, other redactions in here. Okay, so that's a real one. Yes, Epstein was actually trying to purchase babies from his girlfriends. So that's or at least in this case, one. Um, let's see here. Okay, let me see if I can find the other ones. Um, let me see here. Yeah, I'm not okay. Here's another one that people are talking about. And okay, this is apparently now people are speculating that this is talking about um cannibalism. I'll just get to the point here. Cannibalism. Um let's just see if we can find one of these emails and see if people are kind of conjuring this up or making it up or what the hell's going on here. So where's my DOJ tab? Let's get this open here. And let's do DOJ Epstein files. So, and again, folks, I've seen pictures of this going around. Apparently, there's a big YouTuber who made a kind of a breakdown video of this. Apparently, there's a lot of stuff like this. Okay. So, what I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of what's in the tweet. Again, going back to the DOJ's website, I showed you all the method to the madness here. So, let's see what this email is all about. Maybe if this one sheds light on this a little bit. CC, I believe Karina Shuliak, that's one of his ex-girlfriends. And again, this is all redacted. Okay, let's read through it. Hi, blank. When I say blank or redacted, that means there's no name involved. There is one bag of beef jerky in the fridge at 71st. Please get it. And also, blank has more at her place. Please get it from her as well and bring it all with you. I suppose it needs to be in a cold, insulated bag, right? Those of us that eat beef jerky and some of us does this sound normal to you? A small insulated bag would be just fine. I wouldn't recommend checking it. No need for crazy amounts of ice. One should do. All right, then. Okay. This is a very strange thing to email about. I'll give it that. What in the hell are they talking about here? Okay, so let's do a live search here of a jerky. Let's see if we're seeing any other weird instances of jerky or beef jerky. Let's see. God, see when you type into this, let's see. Okay, here's another weird beef jerky email. This is to his ex-girlfriend. The subject regarding beef jerky. Hi, JE is asking to bring him more beef jerky on Friday. Are you also flying on Friday? If not, I would like to collect it from you and take it with me on the plane. Please let me know. Thanks, Karina. I'm flying on Friday. I will bring jerky. Okay. All right. That's a weird one. I don't even think I'm hitting on the weird ones that are making its round here. Let me see. There's so many emails on jerky. This is so weird. Okay, folks, here's another one. Subject, jerky. Just wanted to touch base about jerky. JE said he was going to start eating regular food again, so he might be eating less jerky. That said, he has 6 bags of it in the downstairs freezer for his next trip. I believe it should be enough to get him through. Any other questions, please let me know. That's from Francis Derby. Again, this is weird. This is extremely odd. Okay. Guys, and if you look through this here, I'll show on screen. You just type in jerky. You can see all these different emails. Let's see here. What does this one say? This is another with the subject titled jerky. Guys, and I'm just randomly pulling this up. Okay. This is an email here. Francis has time to come tomorrow to show me how to make it. Jerky class, anyone? He will also bring you a taste of his new jerky recipe from the restaurant. Also sends a warm hello. He's working at a restaurant called Cannibal. Okay, but I did not intentionally. I'm literally doing this just live off the cuff. He's working at a restaurant called Cannibal. I don't think this gives any less credence to the fact that we think these people are eating kids. He is working. This is incredible. He is working at a restaurant called Cannibal and cooks, wait for it, beef jerky and steak. He has time 3 p.m. tomorrow if this is okay with you. And Jeffrey says, yes. This is around 1:45 a.m. in the morning. Totally normal stuff. You know, we're seeing pizza. We're seeing grape soda. You know, do any of you guys text your friends or your colleagues this way? Hey, I want to stop by for some grape soda, you know, or specifically pizza and grape soda, always together, not really on its own, at least that I could tell. I'm sure this is totally normal stuff. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find some of the other details to this. Oh, excuse me. Didn't mean for that. Playing the background. Who's doing this video here? Okay, is that true? What is jerky code for in criminality? Codes, list of codes. Well, what is all this crap? What is all this crap? Okay. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, some people are saying jerky is code for child meat. Oh, come on, man. Jerky equals child meat. Where is that coming from? Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from. It looked like this particular streamer was doing it off of Reddit. I'm certainly not big on the Reddit circle. That is just one weird website. So anyway, you get the gist of it. That's some of the other one. Those are some of the other weird emails that are now circulating. Jerky insulated in cold bags, and Epstein coordinating, making sure he had some available on his flight, or maybe some other people wanted in on some of the jerky and all this other kind of stuff. I'm sure it's just totally normal, innocent stuff. I'm sure the Atlantic is going to write a good detailed article on right ringers specifically making big deals out of elites emailing each other about beef jerky. Or like, what's your problem with beef jerky? Doesn't the right love beef? Yeah, again, you go through all this and all the coding and everything. Clearly, there's something else going on. Clearly, it's code for something else. Now, tying to what the code actually really means, I get it. That's where things can get a little kooky, a little QAnon-y. But to be fair, some of that stuff that QAnon was harping about is definitely looking to have some credibility. Um, I'm not going to say that outright about it because I definitely think QAnon is a agent run, contrived pile of shit. So okay, let's check in on what else is going on. How about we do a multicultural check in? Do we have any videos from France? Let's see if France has it. Let's see how multiculturalism is going over there in France. Um, I wonder if I have this video up and ready to go. Oh, cool. So here's some more multiculturalism on display. This is from southern France, injuring 6 people, including a 5-year-old. Here, let's take a look. Let's see if we could be blessed with some more multiculturalism power. I better not get copywritten for that crappy slop we were just blaring into our ears. Yeah, that was just a casual migrant terrorist throwing a grenade into a barbershop in southern France. Let's see if there's any more to the story. Um, yeah, here's a clear image of him just tossing this grenade, by the way. Yeah, just totally normal stuff here. Just it's crazy because you used to have to before, in the olden days when a nation was conquered, you'd see them group up and the biggest thing was taking women. And you saw it with these Muslim grooming gangs over in the UK. I mean, these are pretty much occupied nations, and a war didn't even need to be fought. They didn't have to physically come and conquer your country. They just got invited in. And very, very interesting times we live in, and just another example of the beauty of multiculturalism. Um, Interesting. Yeah, this is very interesting. See this stuff all the time. You just go into X, see some of the shit. You're not going to see it from the mainstream media, obviously. I mean, they can't even cover a Hunter Biden laptop story correctly. So I don't know what makes you think they're going to shed light on anything negative for the migrants, especially right now when it's absolutely the biggest tool the agenda is using now. Okay, I wanted to get to another piece of the kind of the Epstein angle, if you will, which is where is it? Where is it? This is a good example of just the TDS that's still running rampant in our society. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, because apparently, what is this? Okay. Of course, it's not on here. There's just no way. I wanted to cover this, but I'm not sure if this is real. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Where did you go? Where did you go? God, this it was a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about with people just, especially on the left that are new to this. Anything to implicate Trump, they're just gonna go for it. Um, Let me see if I can find this here. Bear with me, folks. I apologize. Let's see. Of course, this was coming from the. Let me see. Let's see here. Oh God, it was so good because he was getting ratioed into oblivion. Let's see. And it's always fun when this happens, especially with relates to these Epstein files. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm trying to find it here. Of course, this is a problem with scrolling live on this kind of stuff. Man, this is some pretty interesting stuff, to say the least. God, there is so much junk out here, folks. When you go on X, you got to be careful for this. But honestly, that's why I'm a fan of this stuff. You know, release it, just let it all out there. Let the chips fall where they may. Everything will eventually start coming to light into all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and this was something to do with a handwritten letter that was talking about Trump trafficking girls. I believe it was from the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. This was the big one. Here, this is a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. This is from one of the Assenstein brothers. Wow. No one found this horrific Donald Trump mention in the Epstein files because it was a handwritten letter that was indexed properly by the DOJ. How convenient. This woman alleges that Donald Trump was involved with Jeffrey Epstein in the sale of young women to the sex trafficking ring of Epstein and the Saudis. She also claims that Trump forced her to miscarriage after she got pregnant. See the entire 32-page letter on the DOJ website for yourself. Now, when you get into this, yes, she details that I believe this was in 1967. That all of the so in the letter itself, she's accusing Trump of networking with Epstein for Saudi Arabia and all this back in 1967. Okay. Here's the problem. That would mean Epstein was 14 years old and Trump was 21 years old. Seems a little bit far-fetched, I would venture to say. So yeah, you're seeing this community notes going to this stuff. So that's just another example of the kind of stuff we're talking about and why I think Trump was he just didn't want this narrative slop all over the place. And he's still doing a bad job on the narrative of it, to say the least. And but yes, that was testimony of occurrences that happened in 1967. Again, that means Epstein was 14 based on those dates, and Trump was 21. Um, so yeah, uh, that's just another example. That's why it's hard to take any of the Trump accusations seriously because they're all coming from these wacko tips or handwritten letters like this that don't even adhere to the concept of basic math. I mean, could Trump have been involved at 21 in Epstein? Okay, theoretically, sure. The likelihood of it, I just don't know. I just really don't know. And then you see stuff like this. Like, look at this framing here. Could this be Trump sending Epstein this sick email? Why would Trump's DOJ redact this creep's name? What good reason is there unless they're protecting someone like Trump? Trump. It's Trump. Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. How that one tied to Trump? I have no idea. I have no idea. I just want to go see let's go see if that's the littlest girl was a little naughty. Let's see if he could even get that right. Littlest girl was a little naughty. Now let's go into the Epstein files itself and see it. Let me type that again. Oh yeah, that's a real email, all right, folks. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. Yeah, thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little bit naughty. There's the email itself from the DOJ's website. So anyway, just that's the other unfortunate part to this is there's some real unification that could probably happen if we all just dug into this and took our teams, I guess, aside and really just got in here to see what the hell is actually happening. We could probably make a lot of progress here, but for Democratic influencers on the left, they're going to shun this away. They are, it's all about power for them, and they know how to play with power, unlike the GOP. And then on the GOP side, yeah, they might do some of the same stuff, but a lot of them are just saying we need to focus on things like bombing Iran and the midterms and a failing economy, as if that's going to be what people are going to rally behind. The economy's doing good. I don't know if y'all seen it lately. I don't know what kind of economy they're experiencing, but that's definitely not the case for most people. So anyway, pretty interesting tidbits there. And again, another good example of you're going to see the sensational media angles to it. The left is only going to use it because they never care about victims. They only care about narrative. And it works. It works because most people react to emotional responses. Most marketing, and you can go all the way to Edward Bernays on this stuff. It's geared towards the feminine, it's geared towards women. And most people have the attention span of goldfish. And I can't keep track of this stuff or what was happening a week ago. So, unfortunately, the truth doesn't matter. The narrative works. And when you can get on the emotional aspect to this, it's just all about getting elected in, especially with regards to, here's another one. So the Epstein survivors, they released this ad on Super Bowl Sunday to state they will not move on from the latest scandal. And I have a few comments to this, but I wanted to air it for the class. Here, let's take a look. Okay. One interesting comment I'll make to this is, and this was replied to by, who was this? Um, I never really thought about it this way. This is interesting commentary. This is from good old Matt Walsh. I'm all for releasing the files. The women could also just name their abusers at any time. Instead, they've embarked on a months long publicity campaign, which curiously didn't start until the exact moment Biden left office. They profess to know the names of the child rapists in the most powerful positions in society, yet they won't tell us. They'll even take out a Super Bowl ad while claiming to be silenced, even though they're the ones refusing to give us the information they say they have. For those claiming they can't name names because they'll be sued, they could simply give the names to any of one of their many and mostly recent advocates in Congress who could read the names out loud from the floor, insulating themselves and these women from any litigation, but they refuse to do that. Why? Um, yeah, and he's saying, I'm seeing a lot of really lame explanation as to why these women just can't say the names themselves or give the names to someone in Congress. But no one has ever attempted to explain why these women only spoke up once Biden left office. We had 4 years of Biden. None of them said anything. No press conferences, no commercials, no theatrics. The moment Biden leaves and Trump gets in, they're all over TV. What is the innocent explanation to that? So, a few comments on that. It's hard to disagree. I never really thought about it in that light. That is interesting. So we probably could make a lot of headway on this stuff. So why not just name them to an intermediary in Congress? You got Thomas Massey and the other Democratic fella who was spearheading a lot of this stuff. Um, we know Democrats like to do this. They like to use victims for their theatrical power plays and garner the emotional response like nothing's being done. But I sure would like to see, there's been years of this where these campaigns could have started and everything along those lines, but it's we need names. I mean, that's the truth about it. We absolutely do need names. So I'm kind of agreeing with Walsh there. Shockingly. And I mean that sarcastically. We love Matt Walsh over here. Um, yeah, and Elon Musk actually responded to this and said he will pay for the defense of anyone who speaks the truth about this and is sued for doing so. So, Elon Musk apparently is extending a hand out there saying he would he'll pay for the fallout. I'm sure he can afford it. Will they take him up on the offer? I don't know. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. But that gives the taking out a Super Bowl ad for this kind of stuff, and then the names apparently of the people involved, but I don't know. I think it's worth asking the question, folks. I think it's worthy of a little bit of scrutiny. Um, because a lot of the stuff that we're finding out, some of the information that came before, some people took a lot of personal hardship to do it on. I know Cernovich was one of these. I don't know all the details about how Cernovich got these files released, other than getting involved in the court case with Dershowitz. I should probably, detail that out before I cover most of those. But I know he was a big part of that, and thanks to him, for doing that and spending the money to get that out there. Okay, here's another. I'll call this a Bolshevik take on this. If this was any other race, or we were talking about any other race like this would be headline news all over the place. But when a liberal says it, it's fine because it's absolutely okay to hate white people. And guys, this is terrifying in the aspect of a historical nature. This kind of rhetoric usually comes right before some mass slaughter or starvation is in line, and is that a little hyperbole? I don't know, but see for yourself. Tell me what you think, if this is normal. Yeah, and in case you didn't hear that there, basically, the rhetoric around, uh, the common enemy being white people. Um, so I just this is the weirdest thing to follow on the left. This kind of obsession with shitting on white people, and white people are bad and everything white people do, and then that covered a little bit of everything there, which is Democrats' reliance on mass immigration for their voting bloc. And I don't think there's any more of a crystal clear picture than seeing them fight against the Save Act and something simple like voter ID. This is how it's done in the European countries. So, of course, it's being done here. And this isn't about humanitarianism, or, this is only about power. This is the name of the game for these people on the left. Um, and just openly talking about white people being the common enemy to all. uh and if it was any other race that they were talking about, if we were talking about that in terms of black people, Hispanic people, it wouldn't be okay. But with the left, everything can be an emotional tirade in response. And even though Obama was doing this years, and even more so, and even with better numbers than Trump's doing, only now does it matter because it's the current thing. And just reinsert the new chip of outrage into the brain, and they'll talk about it. You'll see it all over social media until the next thing pops up. And then they'll do the same thing. Kick me off your feed if you're not supporting Bad Bunny, you don't love globalism. and immigrants built this country, and that's enough, Whitey. Just shut up and sit down and get killed when we take power. So totally normal stuff. Just great, bold strategy. Okay. So I did want to play. Okay, so there's an influencer going around that's making some headway. He's doing some pretty good work. I definitely got to cover this one. Let's see if I can find him here. Here we go. Let me see if I can find his handle. I want to make sure I give him credit. So you guys, if you're on TikTok, you can go follow him. Who is this? Josh Stelter. So some of you might be familiar with Josh Stelter. Let's see one of his clips here, and he's absolutely blowing up on social media. Fun to watch. Hang on, folks. I do apologize. I don't think the audio is working on that one. Okay, let's see it here. Hang on, folks. I do apologize. I don't think the audio is working on that one. Okay, here. Let's see if I can. Do it here. Bear with me. Man, this is a one-man band production here. This is the fun part about social media. Let's see. I'll probably have to download the video. See if I can do it justice here. Okay, we'll try that one more time. That means probably the other tweet wasn't even doing it either. Oh man. This is fun. No fun. Okay, let's play it.
Hi, how are you? I am a beautiful shot. Excuse me. Hi. I was wondering when the next service starts.
Oh, in like 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes? Would you have time to answer a quick questionnaire? I'm with the ACLU here.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm with the Furries Fighting Fascism and Respecting Transgender Science, or the FARTS, and we're under a lot of pressure right now because we're trying to protect the queer community from mega fascists. And I saw your church is LGBTQ friendly, so I was wondering, could I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Okay, so unlike mega or maggots, do you ever call them that?
Sometimes when I get angry with them.
Yeah, they're maggots. Unlike maggots, do you support trans rights?
Yeah.
Great. And do you support hormones and surgeries for children that are trans?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, good to hear. What if some of the surgeries are more experimental? I know there's some science that's come out that says that some kids may not be ready, or there's issues afterwards with detransitioners.
I really trust the doctors.
Okay, you trust the doctors?
Yeah.
Great. Do you understand that you sound just like a Nazi?
What?
You sound just like a Nazi. They did experimental surgeries on kids and they trusted the Nazi doctors.
That's kind of rude to say, no?
Well, it's kind of rude to mutilate little kids in the name of science, just like the Nazis did, don't you think?
I really don't think you are who you say you are.
Well, I'm trans. I was assigned intelligent at birth, but I identify as a liberal.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't feel comfortable with this conversation.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, since I've identified a fascist here, I'm gonna put you on the fart watch list. So just know you're on the fart watch list.
list. Oh man, give him a follow. That's Josh Stelter at Josh Stelter, or look him up on TikTok. He's putting out some really good stuff, man. That's pretty damn funny. He's got a lot of video, and obviously, just highlighting kind of the hypocritical double standard nature, which doesn't really work on the left as far as trying to convince them. They don't really care about their double standards. They only care about folks on the right or independents who lean right. They only care about that, not so much about the other side to that. So anyway, folks, yeah, tune in next week on Monday, and we'll continue to get these stories lined up, get some more details on the Epstein files. There's some other interesting things that are happening out there, and folks, just do what you can to maintain your sanity out there. Things are pretty wild with yeah, you're seeing. I'm showing this video on the screen. You can't hear the audio to it, but even people on that team, they're on that team, they're attacking each other. They can't even differentiate what's an actual ICE agent and what's a someone on their side. And apparently this guy is on their side, and they're just beating his truck and screeching at him incoherently. And from the inside of his vehicle, he's saying, "I'm on y'all's side. I'm on y'all's side." So, we saw a lot of this stuff during the Tesla bombings. When they were, everybody's seen the vehicles keying each other's car. And then some of these people that they were being keyed, they were actually, with the resistance, they're with the team, their go team. But this is what rabid communist style politics looks like. So welcome to it, folks. We are seeing the machinations of a movement that is international, is absolutely fascistic in its nature, which is super funny when you consider what they're screaming about. These are the people that once they get into power, they absolutely demand you see your papers. They want to know if you voted for Trump. They might go to door to find out if you wore a MAGA hat. But yeah, they're out there protesting by the thousands, and not being oppressed doing so. Actually getting getting some cover. It feels like to do some of this stuff. And yeah, that's a good meme for it. As these people are being arrested, this is kind of encapsulating the movement. If you can't see on screen, it's a fat dude in a meme throwing dildos. "Leave the illegal alien rapists alone." Yeah, that's right, folks. Some of these people that are interfering with this, it's been documented that apparently a number of times the people that ICE were going to arrest were actual convicted pedophiles and rapists. But that whole factual thing, that's kind of a sticking point for people that are emotionally charged and outraged about what they're told to be outraged about, because there is no originality anymore. Everything's contrived, everything's stupid, everything's fake, and everything's gay. And that's kind of the nature of what we're dealing with. So glad to see you too, folks. Okay, I need to be a good boy and make sure I continue the plugs going on here. Folks, this show is brought to you by oops. Of course, here I go again, not being a good boy. This show is brought to you by Defiance Press and Publishing. That's Defiance Press and Publishing, folks. If you're interested in exploring our titles, we got a lot of good authors in there. Patrick Burns, a big one for us. Blaine Pardo's doing great work in there. We also have, books from Sheriff Joe, Mr. Gerald Pio. Go into defiancepress.com, visit our books, browse our titles, see some of the latest details that we're pushing out there. Very interesting titles, nonfiction, fiction. And you can go into the website itself to search for these books. You can also search themselves if there's a specific title you have in mind. Supporting our authors in turn supports the staff there at Defiance Press and Publishing, which also in turn just so happens to help the show here at Defiance Daily in the Defiance Daily Show. If you're on the market for a publisher, go ahead and hit that get published link over at defiancepress.com. That's defiancepress.com. Hit get published. Follow the prompts, watch the videos. We do not retain manuscripts and repurpose them like third world organizations do. We are not Somali run. We are based here out of Conroe, Texas. And we are very much a Texas-based operation here. So yeah, if you submit your manuscript and we don't sign with you, we just move on to the next one. We don't repurpose it or do any of that kind of stuff. I don't know where you guys have been submitting your manuscripts to, but definitely something when I was told about it that caught me off guard, because I was thinking, why am I being asked if we keep manuscripts from people we don't sign? We don't do that kind of stuff. So that's defiancepress.com. Hit that get published link or contact us at 281-581-9300. That's 281-581-9300 to reach out to Mark at defiancepress.com. Again, that's Mark at defiancepress.com. Also, check out our other sponsors here at RFT Media. If you are in the market for AI automation, web development, web design, digital marketing, graphic design, mobile app development, maybe you have a campaign, a political campaign, you're running for local office, this is the group to get in touch with to help automate a lot of your campaign messaging and everything in between there. That's rftmedia.com. They also do a world of IT support, which we use them here at Defiance Press and Publishing and also other organizations. Go to rftmedia.com, hit that contact link, fill out the information and your details on your budget, and please make sure to let them know Defiance sent you. Same with J. Bradley Custom Pools. That's jbradleypools.com. This wonderful weather here in Texas, there's really no bad time of the year to go and purchase a pool. So whether you want to get started early now with some of this freezing early, you want to squeeze in, get a project done, this is a good time to do it. That's jbradleypools.com, or you can call them for a free estimate at 832-813-5340, 832-813-5340. Also, giving another shout out to our other sponsor here at ProcureLogix. If you are in a IT network department at your organization and you're one of these big organizations that you have to comply with an audit, you have to go through RFPs, and you don't want to deal with the headache of doing it, please reach out to ProcureLogix at procurelogix.com or give them a call at 512-640-1532. Whether you're needing assistance in contract negotiations, whether you have low bandwidth for multi-site organizations where you need to renew contracts, or maybe you need to go and source some of your telecom contracts or IT software solutions, ProcureLogix is a one-stop shop for your everything, all in one partner. Everything from a multitude of different technology solutions, as well as bona fide telecom-centric and IT-centric consultations. That's procurelogix.com. You can reach out to them at 512-640-1532. Again, that's 512-640-1532, or follow their LinkedIn at ProcureLogix on the LinkedIn page. Now, that's going to do it for our show today. I really appreciate everybody joining us, especially the haters out there. There's always some reply guy out there who always pictures just got fresh off of watching porn or doing whatever he's doing, and feels pretty incredulous to go and make some comments there. So we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in and contributing to our algorithm and our network flow. And of course, I can't go without the show without mentioning my pops. That's my dad, David Thomas Roberts, that made this all possible. I love you, Dad. Miss you always. Carry on the beacon of a megaphone and just absolutely pissing people off. That was your specialty, Pops. So I think we're carrying on in that same vein again, and definitely feel you with me always, and always need you. And that's my mama there. So shout out to her as well. So God bless you all. So with that being said, I really wish, sorry folks, so we couldn't have Mark in here today, but join us next week. And some interesting developments here at Defiance Press and Publishing. So we'll be releasing some more content, some more videos, and keeping you up to date with all the information. We're live Mondays, really 12:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please tune in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us on our Rumble channel at Defiance Press, Defiance Daily Show. Same with X, and same with YouTube, and same with Facebook. That's Defiance Daily Show. Just give us a shout, look us up, come and join us as we detail and document all the craziness surrounding our political landscape and just the absolute disappointment the GOP constantly is to people who vote for effectuating some of these changes only to be let down again. It's almost like it's intentional sometimes with some of this stuff. Anyway, folks, that's it for the broadcast today. Please, we will bid you adieu. Stay armed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, especially for you men out there, stay reliable. There's a lot of people who love and depend on you and count on you to be uh, capable at a moment's notice. We owe it to them. We owe it to the rest of the world, especially the people that we think we're fighting against. Everybody needs to be mentally focused, needs to be sharp, and needs to understand what exactly is at risk here. And there's a lot. There's a lot to say the least. So, with that being said, God bless you all. Tune in next week. Thank you for joining the broadcast today. Have a good one.